Welcome back to the Troubleshooting Life podcast. I'm your host, Craig Poston, with my co-host, Jake Peters, where we talk about various topics, sharing our passion to bridge the gap between age groups by sharing our experiences on life and finances. Today's topic is on time over money. Yeah, Jay, this is your topic, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I like it because I had to think about it, and when I started writing questions on, I was like, oh man, this is a good one. You know,
Yeah.
like because at first when I was thinking, I was like, okay, what does he mean exactly? Then I just started thinking about it myself. I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a good one.
Yeah. I know we're kind of on a time crunch today too, but no, I think we'll be able to knock it out.
No. Yeah, I mean, the kid's not even here yet, so this is perfect.
Gotcha.
So we won't even need those suppressed sound features.
Yeah. Not yet.
Yeah. But I'll let you kick off with your thoughts on the topic.
Yeah. So time over money, right? So a lot of people, especially us, we tend to trade our time for money, whether that's working a 9 to 5, right? Trying to maybe get a second job is another way people continue to trade time for money. And the crazy thing is that so many people do this, but a lot of people don't also realize that time is a finite resource. And what I mean by that is that you only have so long that you live on this world. So where money, you can always make more money, right? And that's kind of a little too generic, in my opinion, a little too.
That's good because it fits all different. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? What's that? Generations, times, anything, decades. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It is kind of spinning off generational things, right? Like, especially my parents, they've always worked a 9 to 5, right? They've never been like entrepreneurs. They were military. They worked different types of service jobs, and they still do. But they continuously trade their time for money, and they never talk about other things like whether that's investing, right? Where investing would be something else where you're making money work for you, right? Kind of going to like Robert Kiyosaki's little 4 quadrants type thing. But no, it was just a topic that I heard when I was younger, and I think it really helped me a lot. Because a lot of people do think that, like, man, I talk to a lot of people that they try to boast about how much money they make or how much money they make per hour. And it always confused me. But when I was younger, and especially when I started working, in the professional world, it kind of made sense, though. Like, yeah, I want to make more money, so I should go find a job that makes more money per hour, however that is, right? So, but then if you've ever worked like a commission job or a sales job, right, it's different. It doesn't matter how much time you put towards something. It's about what has been executed on, if that makes sense, right? So for like a real estate agent, they only get paid if they sell or help someone buy a property, right? But all that time doing all those preparations, doing like a cross-market analysis, showing houses, doing open houses, those are not, their time is not paid for during that. So I just thought it was a good switch of mindset to go from people that have done hourly work / 9 to 5 work.
Yeah, so probably the closest thing that I've done to sales was probably being a server, and it was at Dave & Buster's. They do worry about sales, also the other thing is when you take home tips, you basically have to still put in that effort, with each customer or guest. They don't say customer, they say guest. So you can have a guest that might not give you much. You might have a guest that give you over the amount. It doesn't really matter the way you had to deliver yourself. You had to do it in a way that you were basically selling yourself along with the items on the menu. You had to let them know you're going to be a good server, throughout. So it didn't matter if I knew I was going to get a $2 tip. I still had to give them the same type of service. And it paid off for me in the long run because as I was doing this to, at the time I was doing it just to make some money so I can pay my rent, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But in the process, I actually ended up picking up quite a good amount of tips because I can go broke and then come back with money, and it was all because I would stick to a certain system that I had how I would treat people, and they seemed like they enjoyed it. So like I remember, and I know it's probably not a lot to some people, because some people work at some really nice restaurants. So if they were, to get their tips might be larger because the type of food that they serve. So they sell something that is, so say the steak costs you $50. Obviously that restaurant's probably going to give you more, get you more in tips because usually someone would tip probably 20% on the total bill. Yeah. But I had one where like it was, I don't know if the guy, I think he liked my ambition because as I was telling him my plan because this is the time I moved to Dallas and I was like, hey, this is why I'm here. This is what I've been doing. And, at the end, I think all he spent was $40 on his tab, but then he gave me a $40 tip, which I thought that was really cool because like all I was doing was being myself, talking to him, stuff like that. And I can only imagine when someone has to, work really hard to end up at the end of the day not even getting that much money when they have bills to pay. So yeah, when it comes to that, you can't always trade time for money, but in some sense it will be that way. Because even as you start a business, you got to trade something in the beginning until it takes off where your time can be geared on something else. Now I can invest the money and make my money work for me. So everyone starts from that beginning. No one starts out unless someone gave you money. No one really starts out without selling their time for money. And that's why time is your most important, precious, and valuable thing that you have.
No, I fully agree. And I think the switch between working like a salary or hourly job to doing commission or having your own business, right, is that you have more of a respect for time and you have more of a priority for time when you're not always guaranteed to that paycheck for whatever hour you are. And you're not always just chasing another position to get because you know that your pay is not dictated by someone else, right? It's your personal responsibility to go out, get that sale, get whatever that house, do whatever your business is in within however much time, because everyone has the same amount of time, right? You and I have the same 24 hours within the day, right? And say we work 9 to 5s, right? Because we work the same 8 hours per day. But whatever you do within that time outside of it is up to you, right? Whether that is, building a business, of course, spending time with your family, that's also important. But yeah, it was just a thing that, and one of like the stories I heard was that there was this guy that he was just always working, right? And he had a son, and this guy, just worked however long he would, and he would come home and he'd always be tired, and he would never have time for his son, and he would always just go back and forth to his job, and his kid always wanted to spend time with him. And one day the kid asked his dad like how much money he made per hour, right? And the dad was like, "Why do you want to know that?" And he's like, "I'm just curious." And the dad was like, "Okay, I make say $50 an hour," right? And the kid was like, "Okay." And then like a month later, the kid was trying to talk to his dad, and he asked his dad for $20, and he's like, "What do you need it for?" He's like, "Yeah, I just need $20, Dad." And then so the guy gives his son $20. The kid goes back to his room. The guy sees his kid in the room counting money, and the guy's all freaking out. He's like, "Why'd you just ask for $20 if you had all this money right here?" And he's like, "Well, Dad, I needed $20 because you said you get paid $50, and I wanted an hour of your time." Right. So he gave his dad $50 to just take an hour of his dad's time because he felt that his dad's time was or from his perspective, he said his dad's time was worth $50, and since he couldn't get any of it, then he would pay for his dad's time. And it was just a crazy concept, and I can see how that happens, and like especially within like the middle class lifestyle where you're trying to make as much money or make as much money to cover your expenses, that you get kind of caught in that little rat race of always just having to work and then paying your expenses and continuing to do that, whether it's for the family or not. You feel like you're doing the right thing, whether even though you're maybe not spending that quality time with the family, that you're trying to work towards something. But yeah.
That's actually a pretty good story. And that as a dad, that would actually make me feel pretty sad. If my kid came to me and said, I have to buy some of your time because you hardly ever spend any with me. That is one of the reasons why we work. We work to provide for the family, but we forget sometimes that we do it for them. And since we're doing it for them, we should also give them some of our time. So, even just, helping with homework, spending, just even sitting down and having movie night. You don't always have to spend money. You can just have movie night, or you could, cook around the house together. That was something that would kind of touch my heart if, my kids were like that and say, hey, you don't spend time with us, Dad. So I gotta scrape up my money that I have to get some of your time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that is the thing that we try to do when it comes to investing. We're putting a plan together. We're strategically trying to plan the future. And what we want from that is that we want to buy back our time. And we can buy back our time. That means that we can do it in something more fulfilling. Like we can, if you always had this dream to paint, now you're not killing yourself at your 9 to 5. Now you can actually take up a hobby. And some people know how to time manage and balance the time. But at the end of the day, is it still your time? Because you've already give up at least 8, 10. Sometimes some people give up 16 hours because they're going from job to job, or their profession requires that much time from them because they get paid so much and they have to prove that they get paid, a reason why they get paid so much. So I would, think like a lawyer would probably deal with that, where they get paid so much per hour and how much work they have to put in, especially if they don't work for themselves, they work for a firm or something like that. So yeah, that would, and hey, that would actually, like I said, going back to that story, that would actually, kind of tug on the heartstrings a little bit. My kid did something like that. That is my, like I said, that is the biggest goal. And I know that's the reason why you do what you do, like with your real estate thing, and it's for the future.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. And man, when I heard that story, I felt it too, pulled on my heartstrings a little bit, because I know what it's like to have parents, and I had both my parents, but I know what it's like to also not have them around because they had to work like so many jobs, right? So like, my mom was Air Force, and then my dad, he worked, 1, 2 jobs up to like 3 jobs at a time, right? Just to make ends meet. And, it was just a rough time. So when we lived in Hawaii, and my mom was, either doing training and stuff, my dad was working 3 jobs. So I didn't spend a lot of time with either of them during those few years. So I spent a lot of time with my uncle. I spent a lot of time with my cousins. And granted, I was a young kid, so I didn't really realize it at the time. But it's still impressionable because I never want my kids to go through that. And granted, I don't have any kids right now, but like you said, I'm trying to set up as many things now for the future so that my kids never feel like how I felt when I was their age.
When I was, I'll say a kid, and also it was more a teenager because that's when you actually notice it more. Both my parents, they worked. I thought that's how life is supposed to be because that's how much they worked. Like I didn't see them till nighttime or evening because that's just, and I think that's where I picked up some of the habits of always working hard. And it's because that was what we were taught. We taught working hard in that way is supposed to get you where you're supposed to be. But in reality, if you're going to work that hard, you got to have your head up while you're working hard to figure out where's your next path. Because if you're always working with your head down, you don't know where you're going, and then you look up, you went nowhere. Yeah. So that's something that I try to keep in mind when I try to do things. So like, what keep it more strategic. Why am I doing this? If I'm gonna pick up a second job, what is the second job for? Is it to invest? Is it to get me out of debt? Like, what is it for? Instead of like, I'm supposed to work hard, I'm supposed to have money, I'm supposed to do this. Yeah. So I guess we'll go into it. Ask one of the questions. What habit can I adopt or we can adopt? I'll say it in that way. To value time over money. What do you think about that one? Yeah.
So it's habit. I'm not sure like if there's a specific habit you can adopt, but I think being more mindful of your time and have more value of your time versus how much someone is paying you for your time. And I know that sounds incredibly vague, but I remember like maybe a few years ago, and the first time I got a cyber job, right, I was making decent money, right, but for some reason I still couldn't mentally get rid of my old part-time job that I had, so I was still working both at the same time while I was going to school, right? And I don't know what that mental blockage was, but then I realized that that part-time job was no longer worth my time, right? And it took me a little while to kind of come to that conclusion, but I started also thinking that my girlfriend deserves that time, right? Like the other people in my life deserve my time, and I could probably spend my time better doing other things, focusing on investing, looking at properties, rather than going to another job however many times. While I was still technically getting money for my time being there, it's still, the monetary value didn't break my personal value of being there. So it's like I said, it's not really a too tangible, like to put a dollar value versus like your own personal value of experience or whatever it is. I don't know if you have something towards that or.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was looking at it more of like, so it's a way to like take back your time. So I guess the habit, I guess when I'm saying it like that, what habits, because I don't know, I could think of like, you think of like your favorite hobby, right? So like I like cars, right? I like working on cars. A way to start to form a habit of taking your time back would be scheduling the time out of your day, and that's dedicated for that time. The same as like how we like to work out, right? We have to dedicate some time to put in that work for our health, and that's how I kind of see it. Same as reading books. You set a time on the schedule. This is when I'm going to read, or if you can't do it by a time schedule, go like. You set it where it's at the end of the night. Hey, 30 minutes. I read that uninterrupted, and I think that's a way to like slowly get your time back until you can get to that point where you're not dependent on the 9 to 5. And like I said, I think we talked about it in a previous podcast where we're going, getting your reserves together so you can help you out with buying back your time, because then as money invests. That's money for transitioning. So you can transition from one job to the next, or transition all the way out of a job into a business, which again, a business still is work, but you can get it to a point where you're on your own. You're not dependent on a paycheck from an employer. You are the employer who has people. You have people working for you. So in the end, you're going to start slowly getting your time back, because instead of you being the manager, you would just be the owner. Start putting people in that place, and that's how I see. That's the build on that. But the habit, I know the initial question was habit, and that habit means to me is like we would actually schedule out a certain point in time in the day that's your time, no matter what. And to me, yeah, I'll end it on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to ask the next one, or you?
Yeah. My bad. All right. So, why should we value time over money?
Okay. Well, I think we should value time over money because, again, like how you said in the beginning, the money you will earn eventually, somewhere, somehow. You can actually, and you can get to a point where you earn it in abundance. Time, again, like you said, is finite. Once it is gone, it is gone. Try to get back that time that you spent watching a worthless TV show or worthless movie. You can't get that time back. You be like, you can't go to whoever who owned that movie, whatever company it is, and go like, hey, you need to give me my time back. That was trash. Like, so yeah, again, it's like what you said, it's finite. You cannot get that back. So you should always try to use your time the best way you can. If it is to watch a TV show, then that's fine. That might be that's what you want to do with your time to decompress from the day. But in the end, when you see your time, you need to make sure your time is somewhat, useful to you. Like me personally, I don't watch many TV shows. I do so I can spend time with my wife, but I don't personally. If I do, I also do things that are a little bit more educational, like documentaries, things like that. It helps feed the mind a little bit.
I agree.
Or I'll get on YouTube, or I'll get on LinkedIn Learning and learn something. I find ways to help, in a sense, try to keep my mind young, keep it working, because I want to be able to use use all the time that I have the best way I can. I wish somebody in my what's that past walked in my path and told me, hey, you need to work on this, you need to be doing this, and maybe they did. When you're a teenager or your young 20s, you kind of have your head somewhere else. It's never on the right thing. And congratulations to the people who are that way, where they keep their head on right the whole their whole life. But yeah, that's I think that's a way you can value your time, is by actually taking control of it, just doing something that you really want to do.
I fully agree, because like you said, I personally don't watch too many TV shows, but I will say YouTube can become a little bit of a rabbit hole. Gonna be transparent there, but no, like you said, when I'm watching something, I try to watch something instructional, educational, something that'll help build me. So the things that I typically watch, whether that's YouTube or I don't own any cable. I hope no one in the world does anymore. But no. So what I watch would be investment videos, right? So I dive deep a lot into real estate. I look into options. I look at what the market's doing, how other people are analyzing the market, how to build a business, how to build credit for a business, right? So I look at all these different things. But like you said, I will sit down and try to spend some time with my girlfriend and watch a movie or watch a show. Like last night we watched Free Guy, and that movie came out like however long ago. So I finally watched like yesterday, and it was good. It was actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
But I do think that specific amount of time was spent wisely, because it was time with someone that I care about and I love. So, and it doesn't just have to be time in comparison to a job. Like you said, there are times where we do spend our time doing other things that are not conducive, or they don't help with our overall goal or purpose for life. Yeah,
so
that's the next one.
Yeah. So how do we stop trading time for money?
I mean, so it's kind of hard, right, to swap, right? And like you said, if someone had come up to you when you were younger and told you, to focus on certain things and maybe not swap your time for money, or just swap your time for, or focus your time on something else, it would be different. But for me, it was one, like you said, managing time. And it was just a realization that I'm not going to always be here. Like, and that's not to sound morbid or anything, or depressing, but it's the honest truth, right? We all live, we all die, but what are you gonna do within that time between, right? So for me, that helped put it in the mindset that I need to do more than just work my own job, and I want to provide other things for my legacy and for generations to come. And then another thing was like, make it bigger than yourself, right? And while you won't always be here for forever, typically your last name, your family, your legacy will be around, right? So what can you do with your time that'll help build your legacy overall? And that's another thing for people to not comprehend or think about, because it's not an immediate action or immediate results, right? Like we said, like delayed gratification and all that stuff. It's things that you will actually never see, or more than likely never see, come to fruition. But hopefully the seeds that you sow get reaped later on. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. It is hard. It's easier to say we can stop trading time for money, because it does require us to make a plan. Definitely it is a strategic task. You have to take that 9 to 5 and put away as much money as you can with that 9 to 5, so you can make it, as Robert Kiyosaki has the quadrants, right? So you're making it from the E category to the S category to over to the I and to the, I think it's owner, right? Yeah. Yeah. So like to be in those other categories, it requires a strategic plan. Again, unless you have guidance in your life that's going to help you move forward, plus the capital, and you can move a lot quicker with that. But for everyday people, it's not as easy. You gotta build up the mindset. So to mentally be able to handle, okay, I'm not doing the same thing over and over again. I'm not trading my time for money. I mean, just like how you said you couldn't quit that part-time job just like that. I mean, it was the same for me, and I think that's why I always kind of had a job. I was like, okay, we'll go from one job. I'm gonna start working a second job. Okay, I'm gonna drop one of the jobs. I'm gonna pick up another job, and I didn't really get I guess a real scare until I had no jobs. But it wasn't my. I mean, you know what? I was gonna say it's not my doing, but that would be me not taking responsibility for what happened at that time. So I would say it is my doing. It's just I wasn't prepared for it. Yeah. So to stop trading time for money would be a mentality change. That would be the first step, I would think, to already say to yourself, okay, I want to do something different. I can't be in the rat race. So now I want to be able to do more with my kids, or do more for myself, or do more for my family, or do more. Or you could take it out further, right? I want to do more for my community. I want to do more for people that's outside of my community, and I think that's what drives some people to become wealthy. It's not all about having fancy cars, nice houses, being able to buy things when you want to. It's more the freedom to do whatever you want to. I want to go across country. I want to go to another country on the other side of the world, and I want to help people over there. All of that is a choice and a mentality change. So that's why I think it would start. It would start with the mentality change to stop trading time for money.
I definitely agree. Yeah, for the next one, what we got? How do we make the best of our time? And we probably covered a few things on here, but if you want to recover them or kind of talk about it.
Yeah. So making the best time of my money. Best make the best of our time. Well,
yeah.
See,
that's the bottom line.
Always thinking about the money. So it would basically kind of like what I said. If you can do stuff like studying, not studying just to study, but studying for a purpose, a mission. Now, yes, if you want to be a person who is very knowledgeable, yes, you study however you like to study. But most people like to study for a goal, and that would actually help them with something else. So it could be for their position that they have at work, or for a future position, or it could be to go in a whole other direction, which is entrepreneur. So I think to make the best of our time would be studying. I was trying to think of something else that I think would make the best.
Real quick, let's kind of take it personal. What was the swap for you, right? Because you moving to Dallas, working however many jobs. Of course, you already had your degree and stuff. But what was that swap for you, like that you didn't want to spend your time just for to make money, I should say?
Well, I mean, honestly, that still took a minute. Like I said, it is a serious mentality change. I think I didn't realize it until I went into the military, where you got the same pay over and over again. There was no jump in pay or anything unless you move up in rank. So you're learning how to budget off this small amount of money. And not to say everybody gets paid small in the military, because it is based off of rank, and it's based off of location where you are. But the way to live like that and to always live like that, it's still a mentality for that. You have to get to a point where you have to learn how to budget, and that actually taught me that. So then that made me get to another point. Was like, okay, I feel like I still don't have enough money, right? And it all came to like learning how to budget. And then when I got ready to get out of the military, that's when I was like, okay, well, again, like I think I told you before, I was, reading a lot more, doing a lot of things, because I didn't want to, what happened to me back in, I think that was 2008 or 9, where, I lost my job. I didn't want that to happen again. I wanted to be be prepared for the, next transition in my life, or for many transitions if I wanted. And so, personally, yes, that's when that actually happened. That kicked in there. So it didn't happen in Dallas right away, because I was still like trying to figure out who I was and what I was trying to do, which was engineering. So I was still trying to go to school again. So I really didn't learn until later on, because I didn't want to repeat that same mishap.
What was the better time spent for you? Was it, and of course you didn't realize that in the military, where like you said, everyone gets paid the same at specific ranks, right? You could be a chef, you could be plunging toilets, you could be shooting people, you could be doing any other job, but if you're within a certain rank, you're getting paid that same base pay, right? Of course, there's other caveats depending on what you do or where you're at, right? But base pay specifically, you're all getting paid the same. And the thing is, your skill sets vary very differently, so differently. And another thing with the military is that technically you get paid 24/7, right? So if you were really to break that down, like per hour or for your time,
you mean work? You mean work 24/7, not paid.
Right. Oh, right. My apologies. You work 24/7, right? You are a 24/7 person all the time.
Yeah.
And while not everyone actually, is in a position to do that type of job, there are positions where you're working incredibly long nights, incredibly long days, right? But you're still getting that same amount of pay, right? Like one person could be working 8 hours, another person could be working 18 hours. They still got the same amount of pay, right? And I think that's also like a mentality shift or a mindset shift, where you have such a dynamic schedule, or the possibility of such a dynamic schedule in the military, that the amount of pay that you get isn't really, I'm not saying isn't worth your time, right? Like you said, it depends on rank, but there's possibly a point in time where you are at a certain rank, but you feel like your skill set is worth more monetarily, right? Or what you're doing right now isn't necessarily what you want to do, so you can do something else in the outside world that'll, like I said, monetarily be beneficial. But
yeah. See, I'm glad that's what I'm glad you brought that up, because like that was one of the things. That's why I think I mentioned the military, because like I said, you get paid that same pay, but then you could be on 24-hour duty. You don't get any extra money for that 24-hour duty. You can work on a holiday. You don't get any holiday pay that day you worked. It could be anything. Again, you could be on call. You could be so if you're on a mission, for sure, you could be on call. If you're deployed, you could be on call. Because I remember just doing a training where we set up everything, and it was something I did not I didn't transfer the knowledge to somebody else, and which was a mess up of mine, and they had to wake me up out of my sleep to come to work early, to start to work this issue out. And that should be a lesson to anybody. If you are the single point of failure, you should probably pass some of that on, because you're gonna have some terrible days. But yeah, to your point, I think that's what I was trying to get to. That's why I learned it from the military. You still have to put the same amount of dedication, regardless of what you get paid when it's the military. So it kind of teaches you that you should, and some people they go to 20 years, and that's their thing, and I don't fault them or say anything bad about that. That's having true dedication and being loyal. That's why we go to the military. But that wasn't for me to do the straight 20. I didn't want to do the straight 20, and one of the reasons would be that the time that I take away from my family, the time that I take away some of the personal things I want to do, I can't do it, because I have to. The mission is first. Mission is always first. Now we do get the time off. They might give us time off of certain things, or we get our 4 days or holidays or whatever it is. We may get those things, but again, if you're on mission or if you're on something, those 4 days mean nothing. Those holidays mean nothing. Yeah. So I'm glad. Thank you for reeling me back in, because that's exactly what I think I was trying to get to that point. Yeah.
No problem. No, I mean, and you kind of, when you brought up military, that's what like reminded me of how I felt when I realized those different things. Yeah. Ready for the next one?
Yeah. So let's see what I got. All right, so this is a crazy one. I don't know what I was thinking, right? Do we use money to create more time, or do we use time to create more time?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? And I think it depends, on the person, right? But I do think it's both. I think you definitely need time to put in to whatever your grind is, right? Whatever you're trying to figure out to of course create more time. And time can kind of be containerized, right? Because you have time at work, you have time with your family, you have time when you sleep, right? So if you're categorizing it with that, but between those different amounts of time, you can put in some work or put in some planning to create more time, not necessarily like more time, right? Like I said, the same 24 hours a day, but you can dedicate more time towards things that you want to do, whether that's a hobby, whether that's your family, whether that's to the community, right? But then on the other hand, right, you can use money as well. You can use money to buy back your time. And it just really depends on the situation you're at. So for example, people that spend a lot of time with their faith or with the religion, with church, they will spend a lot of time, right? And they typically don't get a lot of money for that, or any money for that in the matter, right? But it's a good way to serve their community. It's a good way to serve their soul, good way to provide to their religion. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then, there are people that, things cost money. And the thing is, you don't always have to spend your money to buy your time, right? Like, if I want to retire my girlfriend, I probably could, right? But it wasn't her money to spend her time. It was my money to provide her that time that she needs, right? And same, for other people. And if you want to retire, quote unquote, retire early, right? As in have the option to no longer work a job, then that does require money, because guess what? You still got bills to pay, right? If you, at least if you want electricity, you want water, you want internet, you want those things. Those things cost money, fortunately / unfortunately, right? But like I said, it really depends.
Yeah. No, I think this, when I thought of this question, I was thinking you can use money to create time, and that would be the thing where you get to a point where you're an investor or you're an owner. All right. So instead of you being the person running the business, now you're the person who's owning the business, where you're willing to pay part of the money that you're getting paid as a manager to someone to manage for you as you take a cut as an owner. And that, I think that's one way to use money to get some of your time back, and then using time to get more time. That would just be, to me, using your time wisely, because as you said, it is hard to create more time because time is finite. So the only thing you can do is actually use the time the best way you can. Yeah. So like I said, if you were to, again, we'll go back to studying. If you were to study for a certification that's needed for your position, this position paid more money, and turn that money you put away to the side is more money you can use to invest later, which can later help you do other things. So, I mean, that's kind of how maybe that's what I was thinking when I wrote the question. I know it sounded crazy, so I was like, I'm just put it down anyway.
Sounds crazy. Good for the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Ready for the next one?
Yeah. We'll do the next one. Yeah. All right. Do we think affluent people have more time, or people with low responsibility have more time?
And like, I'm going to continue to say this and sound like a broken record, but whether you're broke, whether you're wealthy, you still have the same amount of time, right? And it's more important on what you do with that time. Now, that is one of the deciding factors between, I guess, the two, right? Because when you don't have money, you do have to spend more time getting money, right? When you have money, or when you are wealthy, you don't necessarily have to only spend time, right? You have more options available to you to spend.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the reason why I thought of that question is people always think when someone has a lot of money that they have a lot of time, and that might be, that might not be the case. If they didn't learn how to put their money to work for them, and they're just rich, they may spend a lot of time, working for that money. And then, how I said, thinking of someone who has low responsibilities, actually puts you in a position to use your time for something else. All right. So, and that, to me, it made me think of like, okay, when you're a teenager, you can have a job, right? And also your responsibilities are lower. So if you were to, if you take your time to increase your knowledge on something else, or you realize that you're not spending as much money on expenses or a bunch of different little things, you have more money to put away. Now, I mean, that's even for adults too. If you figured out a way to lower your responsibilities or lower your expenses, you can put more money away, or put money towards things that help you be in a better position. Because then, how we think that, rich people have this glamorous life. I mean, a person who knows how to manage their time and have these low expenses and low responsibilities, I think probably are living a better stress-free or more responsible life in a sense. Because in a sense, that's where you want to get to. If you want to be wealthy, you're trying to get to a point where your daily problems aren't overtaking you. Your expenses are eating away at your time, your life, or your money, right? So yeah, to me, that's, in a sense, these both different categories could have their issues. They could be great at what they're doing, or they could just, could be, for the person with a low responsibility, could be a loafer, right? Just don't do much at all, and so yeah, that's why I came up with that one.
It's kind of like the saying in I think it's When I Get Married, when it's Tyler Perry's movie. I forgot the guy's name, but when he marries the younger chick, and he's like, if you don't cook, if you don't clean, just don't. Just don't. Just don't. Well, for the next one, let's see. We got if we have more money, would that mean we will have more time?
Yeah,
it kind of goes back to, but continue.
No, you good, man. Yeah. No, so yeah, that definitely does not mean that. You can have a lot of money. So in a sense, you think of like music artists, right? They go on these long tours, like that, and they're probably bringing in all kinds of money. But how much time do they stop and reflect on life, or stop and spend time with family? We don't know. I don't know a lot of music artists like that, but we do hear about their tours. We hear how long these tours are, and we hear about how much money they make. So, and we don't know exactly how they balance their time or what they do in their off time, but it doesn't necessarily always mean that you have more money, that you have more time, because if you're still trading time for money, which in a sense, if you're a boxer, right? If you're a boxer with a big name, or you get to a fight with a big name boxer, right? Your time spent in the gym training, right? You may get a big payout, but think about all that time that you had to shut off from people just to train. Make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're doing the right things, because you don't want to waste your time once you get in the ring.
One hitter quitter.
Yeah, to them it might be a good thing. It's like I got my money, I'm out. Might not be good for all the fans who came to watch. Yeah, because the fans want a show, and that's usually what they try to give them now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So what you think? Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of going into it, right? Is that going into time, and I think it's weird that we can value money in different ways, right? Like money has like a tangible value, right? Where time is kind of just ticking away, but we never have a set tangible value for meaningful time versus wasted time. If that makes sense, right? Because we know that a $1 bill is not equal to $100 bill, right? They're just not equal. But we never see that the 1 hour spent with your family is not the same as the 1 hour spent just mind-numbingly on social media, right? Whatever that non-equivalent thing is.
Yeah.
But right, and whether you have money or not, I don't think money is what really gives you your time.
Yeah, because $1's not even worth $1. You don't even have to put it against $100 because it's not even worth $1.
And especially against time, right? You put money against time, time's gonna win against that one, right? But
yeah. Let's see. You want to do the next one?
Yeah. All right. Does our time have more value to people other than ourselves?
Yeah. Ourselves.
Does our time have more, or do you think more people value our time than we do?
Okay. It's funny. I wrote this question, and I'm like kind of stumped on myself. I'm like, man, what was I thinking? Yeah. So does our time have more value to people other than ourselves? All right. Yes. I in a sense, I think so, and especially if you have people depend on you, right? I think your time could be more valuable to somebody else. Because especially if you have, so say if you're the breadwinner of the family, right?
Right.
And you're not spending your time wisely to make sure things are going properly, or you're not balancing, doing the budget, or you're not making sure the debts are not getting out of control. You're going to do the things necessary to keep your family running. I think your time could mean more to somebody else than it can to yourself. But I mean, most of the time, I guess everyone always looks at time, as it's my thing, But then it could be, if you learn how to, I guess, be more of a servant to, what I'm saying, to different things. You learn how to help people. So because not everybody has money to like, oh, I'm gonna donate some money to you. But one thing we do have is time. So your time can be used to volunteer to help somebody out. I think I think that's where I was going with it, because it took me a minute to think about it. What was I thinking?
What was I on when I said this?
Yeah, I was drinking. So, so I think your time can be more valuable to other people than yourselves. Like I said, that volunteering thing is a big thing, and that means that you're learning how to do something for more than just yourself, because we are a very self-centered culture. We're always worried about us, me. I mean, before I had a family, that was exactly how I was. And you don't realize it, and because you see something you want and you go after it, and you don't think about all the things around you. You just like, this is me. That's what I want. Let's go. Yeah. And sometimes you do have to stop and reflect and not be so bullheaded and not knock over everybody as you try to get to where you're going.
No, I definitely agree. And kind of on that is that, especially when you have a family or when you're in different relationships, that maybe you're not sharing what you're doing. So they don't value your time the same way you do, because they don't know what you're actually spending your time towards or what that purpose of that time is. Right. So say you're trying to get a degree, right? And so you have to go to school, you have to study, but all your friends are wanting you to go party, right? And they want you to come out drinking like every night, right? They don't respect your time because you didn't set the precedence and set the expectation of that your time is being spent towards this, and this is your purpose, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, because they have, like I said, they don't have the same value of your time that you do. And it's hard to kind of really estimate that or guesstimate that from an outside point of view, right? And same with your kids. And just going back to that story, right, where the kid, he just knew that his dad wasn't with him because he was working, right? So if he's going to be working, how much does he make? So I can actually get an hour of his time, right? So that I know that he values that money that I can give him so that I can have his time, right? And it is a sad story, and it is a kind of a tearjerker, because it does happen. Like that specific story doesn't happen, but those situations happen where we're chasing something else and we're not paying that time or attention to the people around us, where that's your, of course, your family, your friends, your, maybe community in general. But no, it can get pretty bad.
Yeah. All right. So this one, who controls our time?
Ooh.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Right? I think it's who you let control your time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, your employer, they control your time, but you get to set when they get to control your time. Right. So you have an employer, right? You agree that you're going to work 8 hours or however many hours, and before that time you get paid, right?
Yeah.
And of course, depending on what part of the situation it is, you can kind of set if they only take those 8 hours of your time, right? So if you go into work, you clock in, you do what you need to do, right? And you clock out. And then after you clock out, that is it, right? You no longer give time to your employer. You no longer give time to that job. But there's other people like myself, right, where I'm constantly trying to do things or focus on doing stuff for work, and it's a bad habit, I guess, and it really depends on your perspective or people's perspective on that. But yeah, I know I do have that bad habit where I do work a lot more than those whatever 8 hours that I'm allotted, and then you yourself you have control over whatever free time you have, right? And you do have obligations, right? Like I said, work is an obligation. At some point you have to sleep, so that's got to take control at some point.
Never sleep,
right? Yeah, never sleep. No, sleeping is for the weak. But
no, sleep is important. We gotta get our sleep.
No, man, you gotta be like 50, man. 50 said it right. He's like, sleep. He's like, sleep is for the broke. Like, I don't sleep
until you're broken.
Well, that's different, right?
Yeah.
right. But no, well, yeah, so sleep, of course, work, and then of course your family. I feel like people, if you have a family, you have an obligation to spend time and spend moments with your family. If not, that's how people get divorces and probably lose their kids.
Yeah.
But and then whatever quote unquote free time you have, that is technically your control. But people can designate others to take control of that free time, right? They can designate I guess their time to unwind or de-stress, right? So they'll give it to social media, they'll give it to YouTube, they'll give it to TV shows, whatever that is. That's I'm not saying that's not constructive time, because there are times where you do need to decompress and de-stress. But I don't think it should be more than the time that you spend at work or the amount of time you spend at work. But that's
unless it's research. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because I use YouTube for research. Yeah. So.
No, I agree. And while that's constructive, I mean, people that are just like scrolling through, just, I don't know, things are just like eating up their brain. I don't know. But yeah, man. Yeah. So it really depends.
Yeah. No. It's what you said. It's who you allow control your time. So yes, you are in control, but you're not in control once you're, I would say, I won't say a prisoner, but once something else has you, right? So if you have too much debt, so some people, they can manage debt properly, all right? They understand interest rates, they understand all that, right? But if you let it get out of control to the point where, I mean, you can't even save, you're now becoming in a sense, prisoner to that debt. So now you're putting all your time and effort into making more money to fix your problem that you that you should learn how to control. I mean, it's the same with anything else. If you spend your time on a habit, like I said, that is a control of yours. I want to learn something new. I want to do something new. That is, there you go. That's something else of yours that you own. But as many of us do, we do have to work at least 8 hours, right? If we work 8 hours, that's 8 hours that's ate up by your employer. Now, yes, you have exchanged something for it. You are receiving money for that time. So it's not just lost time, but you're in a sense still not in control of what you're doing at that job at that point in time. So those 8 hours are lost. But then the rest of the time, what is that like? Is it 16? Yeah, 16 more hours. Now you got many other things you got to do, because supposedly we're supposed to get 8 hours of sleep, which is very difficult if you have a lot to do and a lot you want to accomplish. That's 24 hours is in a sense, for a busy person, 24 hours feels like a short amount of time. That's why time management is very important.
I agree. So, I definitely agree. Like most people, like I definitely don't sleep 8 hours a day. But that's definitely a choice, because I was very cognizant of the time I want to spend. Right, and especially if you have to spend, not have to, you get to spend 8 hours at work.
Exactly.
Right?
I don't get 8 hours either. So.
But then, like, come up, right? Like you of course have a family, right? I personally am trying to work towards other things, right? Then something has to give, right? Especially if you still want to stay fit, of course, work out, eat healthy, nutrition wise, and you want to spend those other moments of life. Something's got to give, and work's work's not going to give you, or say you can use less time and receive the same amount of money. But you can give up the things like sleep, right? And a lot of, like you said, a lot of people are like, get your 8 hours. And while I agree with the health standpoint of that, on a grind standpoint and on a focus standpoint, it's not likely / not doable to get a full 8 at least.
Read the last question we have.
Yeah. So I know you didn't want to say prisoner.
Yeah,
I know you said it.
Yeah,
but how can time be a prisoner of money?
Yeah. Well, again, kind of feeding off of what we were just talking about. Your expenses, your bills. I mean, some expenses we have to have, right? You have to eat. You won't say you have to have a car or you have to have gas, but food wise, you have to eat. If you have a shelter that you live in, you pay for, or someone has to pay for the expenses that go along with keeping the electricity on. You don't necessarily need to have the entertainment. You don't necessarily need subscriptions. You don't need cable. I kind of up in the air about internet because nothing functions now without internet. like you can't work from home unless you have internet. So things are a little different where now that's more of it's becoming a necessity. So going to the question, can time be a prisoner of money? Yes, it can. And I think it's all about the choices we make. If we don't make good choices, then we will always be working for something that we don't know. It's like an endless hole that we're going down. So the reason why I use debts because debts is the easiest thing to kind of aim at. What can keep you from doing more things, and that's why I think some people focus so hard on just removing debts altogether and then focus on investing. Now there are there's multiple methods. You got I'm gonna pay some debt and I'm gonna invest. I'm gonna pay some debt and I'm gonna invest. And that's the way you can kind of keep it going at the same time. Because in reality, your debts will shrink and your investments will grow. But some people like to just knock it out one time. Go, hey, let's focus on that. Which it clears the mind. It has you more focused. But if you're a person who knows how to manage your finances properly, you can pick whatever method you would like to do that. So yes, you can become your time can become a prisoner of money in a sense of that way. Another way would be the type of career. If your career is a high paying job, right, a high paying career, you may want to spend more time in increasing yourself to make sure you're at the top of your game, to make sure no one else can take your position. Or you want someone to take your position, it's so you can move up to a new position, which all this requires time. You learning a new position, you being very proficient in the position that you are in now. So yeah, you got multiple ways that time can become a prisoner, but being aware of it is the real thing. You want to be able to understand what you're doing with your time. That's what I think on that one.
Fully agree, and it really depends. It doesn't have to imprison all of your time, but it can definitely imprison the time that I guess you're making money or making money is required, right? So like you said, when you have all these debts, when you have all these bills, and you need to continuously work, it will imprison that time. But when you're in a decent career, right, or you don't have a lot of debts, or you have investments that are working for you, it doesn't imprison all the other time or other free time that you can spend.
Yeah. Now we're trying to do something new, huh? We're trying to go for this new thing where we have a segment called Frugal or Cheap.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I guess we're going to do this for now on. We're just going to throw this in there. And I guess we want to get some comments from people. What do they think, what's frugal, what's cheap? So yeah, this one we chose is a cash car. What do you think? Is that cheap or frugal?
I think it depends. Right, but I think in general that's a frugality type thing, where and of course you can go fairly even either way, right? Because when you say frugal, you say cheap. There's kind of a fine line, right? That's kind of dependent on that, and that's kind of why I wanted to create this segment, is because there is a fine line, but where do you draw that line,
Yeah.
right? And specifically for a cash car, I think it can be a frugal tactic, right? But it can also be a cheap tactic, right? Where you would rather buy a cash car rather than and cash car can mean however much to however many
Yeah.
people, but versus financing a car. But say if it's a decent car, like it's like 12 grand, whatever it is, right? A few years old, um, and you can pay that in cash rather than financing, then that would be more than likely a frugal concept, because you wouldn't want to do however much percent it is right now on a loan that's 3 to 5 years, right? But it can also be cheap if you're going to buy an incredibly old car just because it's an inexpensive car and you're not fully aware of what do things come with it, right? Where it could use some repairs, right? It may not work properly at first, right? And you're not fully prepared to take on all those uh,
Yeah.
X, Y, Z, whatever variables happen with that. Well, what
Yeah.
about you? What do you think? Because
Well,
I bought a cash car
yeah.
when I was 19, right? And it did need a little bit of work, and I put a little bit into it, but in hindsight, it probably would have been better for me to get a car and finance it at the time. That was maybe a little bit more. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying like a incredibly expensive car and getting an incredibly expensive rate, but to get a car and finance it rather than get that inexpensive or inexpensive car, because it's like a little over 2 grand that I paid for it.
Yeah.
Um, but what's
Yeah.
your take on it?
I mean, it can be a little bit of both. It depends on why you're getting it, right? Frugal, if you have a mission, right, you gotta, all right, I need to save X amount of dollars to get to where I'm going, so I don't want to take on any extra debts because in a sense, if you're paying for a car note, depends on your interest rate, right? You get a car note, it could be a zero interest, or it could be what, up to 18%. It depends on your credit, depends on your situation. uh, but if you're buying a car solely on you're afraid to spend money, I think it might be a little on the cheap side, because you might end up with not such a great car, because that means you didn't take the time to have somebody come out and look at that car, because that means that might require a little bit more money if you can't find a friend who's good with cars to go take a look at this car and see, hey, is this a good car for me to have or whatever. And that's where I think it could be cheap if you're going strictly off the dollar value when you buy something versus the quality of it. If you were buying it off the, I was like, hey, this is a good car. And I know if I pay for this car, this $3,000 car right now, this car will still last me another 100,000 miles, which also saves me. So what is that? For 100,000 miles, that could be, what, at least, it depends on how you drive. Because I think it could be like 5 to 8 years, depends.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
depends on how you drive.
yeah.
And so that would actually save you that money within that time. So the money that you would have spent on, I don't know, depends on, like, again, depends on the people's income or whatever, how they will like this, like a $200 car payment or to a 506, whatever, right? That money is no longer going towards that loan, which also has interest, right? So now it's going towards your bank account instead. So it could be frugal if it's a mission. It could be cheap if you're just literally like, I don't like spending money, and this car, yeah, it looks good. Okay, yeah, let me get into that. Yeah, and that's where it could be cheap. So so hopefully we have some people put some comments about what they think about it.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, and I'm not gonna lie to you. I think the first car I got was a cheap car, or and was from a cheap mentality. I said, because like
Yeah,
I didn't want to spend money, and my buddy had a car, and I was like, all right, I'll just buy this off, because he didn't want to take it to him when he went to Hawaii, and I was like, all right. And then like a month or 2 months later, the radiator blew, right? Because the fan wasn't working, right? And I had to spend like another grand on that, and then of course, other things happened. But yeah, no, I poured more money into that car than I did when I initially bought it.
Yeah.
Right. And honestly, all that money that I spent, however, within let's say the first year, right, probably could have been put towards a down payment or a different car.
Yeah.
Depending.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then I know you put in a new segment about goals. I guess this is one way we can kind of be held accountable for our goals that we set. So what goal did you want to set for? I guess it'll be for March. What goal would you like to set for the month of March?
So honestly, I don't have like monthly goals. I probably should break them down, but I try to break them down by at least by quarter.
Yeah.
Right. So like each quarter, I try to have one. So one goal I have is to get a property by the end of Q1 of March. Right. So I mean, it kind of coincides with the monthly part. And right now, I just before the podcast just signed some paperwork. Hopefully, gets accepted. Hopefully, it goes well, and hopefully we can update that goal as the podcast continues. What about you, man? You got specifically a monthly goal for March?
Yeah, I really want to meet other real estate investors because that way I know I can increase my knowledge on learning how to find certain banks to do certain deals, or just the knowledge in general, learning how to do a deal. So that's one of my goals I want to set for March is at least meet one new person that's actually into real estate investing. So that's what I do.
That's a good one, man. Oh, and to go back to one of our previous podcasts, I have an Audible subscription, and I finished 2 books through Audible. So two books is probably the most I've read in like the past 10 years. Well, or I can't say read it because I didn't read them, listen to, but
that works.
Yeah, well, I listened to the Secrets of Success by Dr. Eric Thomas, and then I also listened to The Compound Effect by Darren something. I forgot the author's name, but they were both really good. Secrets of Success does cost money. The Compound Effect doesn't, and The Compound Effect is actually a really good book for something else free on Audible. So you definitely got to check that one out.
Yeah, so I guess we'll have to check back in the end of March, right? See, because you set yours for the quarter, which is March also, right? So so both our goals should end in March. All right.
Or there should be progress towards the goal.
Right?
The overall. Okay. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, because my overall goal is to meet many people, but that's why I said one person, because like I said, and I could meet many if I go to a meetup group. So that's one reason why I said it like that. But yeah. I mean, it's still progress. All the way to progress or success. You did
it. Progress. Let us focus progress.
All right.
Man.
You want to close this out?
Yeah, man. All right. First and foremost, I greatly appreciate anyone that's comes to the podcast and listened. Thank you very much. And of course, thank you, Craig, for your time. This was a really great topic. I really enjoyed talking about it. I know we're kind of in time crunch. But
I think it went over anyway.
Whatever. It is what it is. Kids. Well, I appreciate everyone for joining us and listening, and we'll see you next week.
All right. So on a side note, we want to let you know our Troubleshooting Life podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and we are sharing our experiences and conversations for that reason. All right, and everyone, see you next week.